When the moon stands still. The city always smelled faintly of iron and rain. Elias hated it. He claimed it was because of the traffic, the factories, and the half-finished steel skeletons of towers rising higher each year. But in truth, it was the noise in his chest that made him restless, the constant reminder that as an alpha he was expected to rise, to dominate, to lead. He worked in the Central Urban Development Office, an environment built on hierarchy. Alphas commanded the boardrooms, betas filled the mid-management grind, and omegas, well, omegas were tolerated, rarely trusted with leadership. That morning, Elias walked into a conference room where new project consultants had been invited. He was prepared for the usual dull exchange of pleasantries until his eyes landed on someone across the table. An omega. But not like the meek stereotypes plastered across the company's recruitment posters. This omega sat upright, crisp shirt sleeves rolled up, a folder of plans at hand, gaze sharp enough to cut steel. He didn't flinch when the room of alphas sniffed in mild curiosity. "Mr. Callan," the director introduced, "you'll be working closely with Elias on the Heritage Renewal Project." Callan extended a hand across the table. Elias hesitated before taking it, surprised by the firmness of his grip. For a second, neither broke eye contact. Something unspoken hung there, challenge, recognition, or maybe defiance. Elias released the handshake and sat down, pulse oddly louder than the rain outside. Their first weeks working together were disasters wrapped in polite reports. Callan questioned Elias at every turn. Why prioritize a new high-rise when the district's old stonework is collapsing? Because the investors demand it, Elias replied curtly. And when did investors start dictating human dignity? Callan shot back. Meetings turned into verbal fencing matches. Omegas weren't supposed to raise their voices in boardrooms, yet Callan did, measured, articulate, impossible to ignore. Elias told himself his irritation came from Callan's arrogance. But irritation didn't explain why he found himself replaying their debates long after, wondering what Callan looked like outside the fluorescent lights of the office. One evening, staying late to finalize a report, Elias walked past the break room. Through the glass wall, he saw Callan alone, resting his forehead against his folded arms on the table. His shoulders trembled slightly, though his face was hidden. Elias froze. For the first time, Callan didn't look like an adversary. He looked human, tired, fragile. Elias almost stepped inside, but he clenched his fist instead. Omegas had their private battles and alphas weren't always welcome intruders. He walked away. Weeks blurred into months. Rumors spread. Some alphas whispered that Elias had gone soft, letting an omega challenge him publicly. Others muttered about Callan being too bold, forgetting his place. One night, Callan found himself cornered in the parking garage. 3 junior executives, 2 alphas, and a beta decided to remind him of hierarchy. "You talk too much for an omega," one sneered. "You should be grateful we let you in these meetings," said another. Callan tried to brush past them, but the alpha closest blocked his path. The air thickened, heavy with dominance pheromones. And then Elias arrived. He didn't speak at first. He simply stepped between them, tall, steady, his own scent cutting through the air like thunder before a storm. The others backed down quickly. Alphas didn't challenge alphas of Elias' caliber without calculating the consequences. When the garage emptied, Callan finally exhaled. His hands were clenched white around his folder. "You didn't have to." "Yes, I did," Elias interrupted. His voice was quiet, not commanding. "You shouldn't fight every battle alone." For once, Callan didn't have a ready retort. He just looked at him, something unreadable in his eyes, before walking away without a word. Their project faced a sudden crisis. Funding was pulled, investors withdrew, the district renewal was about to be scrapped, months of work tossed aside. The office descended into panic. Elias, used to carrying weight on his shoulders, felt the familiar suffocation of expectation. He was the alpha, he was supposed to fix this. But in the chaos, Callan was the one who stood up. He presented alternative funding strategies, spoke with grassroots organizations, argued that renewal was not just profit but heritage. His voice cracked at times, but his conviction was undeniable. Elias watched, torn between pride and fear. Pride because Callan was brilliant, Fear, because the higher he stood, the harder society would push him down. Omegas weren't allowed to change the world, or at least not without bleeding for it. That night, after Callan's late presentation, Elias found him sitting alone on the office rooftop. Rain misted the skyline. "You're going to burn yourself out," Elias said softly. "Better to burn out than fade into someone else's shadow," Callan replied, staring at the city lights. Elias sat beside him. For a long time neither spoke. The silence was strangely intimate, as if the air itself held its breath. Finally, Callan whispered, "Do you ever get tired of being what they expect you to be?" The question cut deep. Elias swallowed hard. Every day. The project board finally voted. The heritage renewal would be reduced, trimmed of heart, reshaped into yet another glossy skyscraper scheme. Callan's voice shook as he argued, his passion dismissed as emotional. Elias was expected to vote with the alphas. His hand hovered over the paper, the weight of generations pressing down. In the end, he sided with Callan. The boardroom erupted. He was accused of sentimentality, of letting an Omega cloud his judgment. Elias didn't flinch. For the first time in years, he felt free. Afterward, Callan found him in the stairwell, eyes blazing. "Why would you risk everything?" "Because you were right," Elias said simply. His voice trembled, but not from fear, from the terrifying honesty he could no longer contain. "Because you make me believe I can be more than their puppet." Callan's breath caught. For a heartbeat, the world stilled. The rain outside hammered against the glass as if urging them closer. But instead of a kiss, there was silence. Callan turned away, eyes glistening. "Don't say things you can't mean, Elias." "I've never meant anything more," Elias whispered. Weeks passed. The project was shelved, but the story of an alpha standing beside an omega spread quietly through the city. Some called it foolish, others revolutionary. Elias and Callan worked less together, yet their orbits never strayed far. Meetings turned softer, arguments slower, words heavier. One evening, after another long day, they met again on the rooftop. The city hummed below, restless and alive. "I don't know where this ends," Callan admitted, arms wrapped around himself. "Maybe we'll fail, maybe they'll never let someone like me change anything." Elias stepped closer, his presence steady, protective, without suffocating. "Then we'll fail together, and if you burn, I'll burn beside you." For once, Callan didn't argue. He just looked at him, the fight in his eyes softened by something warmer. The moment stretched, fragile yet unbreakable, like the stillness of the moon caught between phases. And in that silence, though no vows were spoken, a promise was made. Not of dominance or submission. Not of Alpha and Omega. But of two souls daring, against the world, to choose each other. They didn't rush. There was no sudden claim, no neat bow to tie it all. But when colleagues whispered, when society sneered, Elias stood tall. And when nights grew heavy and Elias faltered, Callan was there, stubborn and unyielding. The city kept building towers of glass and iron. Yet in its quiet corners, among stone alleys and forgotten rain-slick streets, something else was being built. A future not yet certain but alive. And for Elias and Callan, that was enough.